Now we all know the plays that are involved in the double wing offense, but in this video I'm going to show you how to make the double wing offense work and let you know why you might want to consider using it if you're in a situation that hasn't won many football games for a while.
We're not going to get a second chance in the game.
So this is the double wing, which I have used from time to time in my 23-year coaching career. First, it was just a package within our offense that we would use as we got close to the goal line. And we found that it was really tough, hard to stop. So we started using it a bit more. And then finally in 2021, when I took over a very small high school that was in horrible shape, 17 boys, grades 9 through 12, I knew, and I was limited on a coaching staff, I knew I needed to go double wing. Now, I would never say that three-back offenses or double wing or wing T offenses are the best offenses. I don't believe they're better than some spread offenses, but I do absolutely believe that they're better for a lot of teams. You've got to be very realistic about the type of talent that you have. The type of football you see on TV requires a lot of talent. They're the best in the world. That's why they're on TV. And when you're coaching your common youth football team or even a small high school team, there's a lot of chances that you're low on talent, especially if you're in a place that hasn't won in a while. So you should strongly consider the double wing. If you're at a small high school, if you just took over a program that hasn't won in many years, or if you're a youth football coach and you're taking over just your common small town program, you should strongly consider the double wing. Now, I already mentioned there that you should use it if you're low on coaches or if you're low on talent, and you should be honest about that. How many truly athletic kids do I have on my program? But here's some other little things that are part of the double wing that help you. Number one, your foot-to-foot splits. Now, why is foot-to-foot important? Well, foot-to-foot, first of all, means my feet are next to the feet of the guy next to me. There's almost no space in between. Now, we would go 3 inches in my year, but that's really considered pretty much foot-to-foot splits. Foot-to-foot splits are good for kids that are lower on talent. A one-on-one block is difficult to hold for a long period of time. So now when you're close to other people, it is harder for people to get penetration, which limits the amount of negative plays in your offense and it helps you to, as you see there, control the ball. Also, it can be very difficult to defend, and it's difficult to defend for several reasons. Number one, if you get very good at executing a few things, you are hard to defend. You don't turn the ball over. The motion can be very misdirective and very misleading at times. And then lastly, the defenses don't see this offense a lot, so you can give them fits if you'll stick with it. Now let's start with formations. The double wing is unique because really you're going to spend the majority of your life in one formation. Now that's a huge advantage if you're in a situation that hasn't won very much or a small town with a small school youth football program because you don't have a lot of coaches. One formation, less to teach, and you're going to spend a lot of time together as a unit. Now we're double tight, double wing all the time, which means that's not a part of my play call. I don't really have to call the formation, but we're going to call in the motion. Now some programs will have it in place that the motion is built in, right? If I call power right, I want my left wing back to just know to go in motion. Well, I like to call it in, and I like to call it in because there are times where I want to call in a false motion. I might want to run power right, but I'm going to bring motion left to mislead the other team. So this is simple. All I can do is share with you how we would do it in our system. We label our backs F, B, and Z. F is on the left, the Z is on the right. And if I want the F to go in motion, we call flow. And if I want the Z to go in motion, we call that buzz. If I want no one to go in motion, we say no-mo. Now there are 4 main plays to making the double wing offense work for you. Could you add more? Absolutely you could add more. But you don't have to add more. You can run an entire season on these 4 plays. In fact, I would spend 90% of my time or more on these 4 plays, and then from there maybe throw in a wrinkle or two that you almost treat as trick plays. You're only going to run them 1 or 2 times a game. You're going to make your money off of these 4 plays. Power or superpower, also known as student body right or student body left. This is the signature play of the double wing offense where you're getting as many bodies to the point of attack as possible. Of course, a counter play off of that, once you get good at that and make people respect it, you hit them opposite. A trap where you catch them sleeping and you can pop one up the middle. And then you need a play action pass. In this case, we go with our favorite that we've always called wagons. Now, the double wing offense, it's going to catch some slack because, again, you don't see it on TV. But as the coach, you have to have thick enough skin to be able to endure a little bit of negative input from the outside. If things aren't going well, people will be chirping at you. But I assure you that things are going to not go well no matter what offense you're in, especially if you're at a small school with not a lot of talent or you're trying to turn around a program. Things go badly. You'll have to have some thick skin. If you get into the double tight, double wing, you will hear from time to time somebody will say negative things, whether it's boring or it quote unquote can't work. I assure you it can, and it's probably your best bet at giving yourself a chance to compete, especially when you might be outgunned from time to time. But how do you make it actually work, right? It's not just about the plays. There's nothing magical about these plays. You have to get very, very good at these 4 plays to make them difficult to defend. So in order to make it work, you have to do the following things, and you got to work hard at doing the following things. You've got to practice getting off the ball with effort. That takes time. That takes coaching, right? So you've got to, I think the best tool for that is the sled. Put the kids in front of the sled. Have practice periods where you are going to practice getting off the ball with effort, staying low, running your feet. You have to drill the little flip of the pitch relentlessly. You've got to protect the football. Have systems in place that tell kids how we carry the ball here. Hey, in our program, we carry the ball 1 inch from our chin. That's what we do. And when we're in traffic, we cover it with our other hand. We have a plan for blocking different fronts. We have a good idea of what we'll see, right? We're only running these 4 plays 90% of the time, which gives us practice time to go against different looks. We know what our tight end and wing together, the variations of things they might see, and we've practiced this and our kids are not surprised by them. And last but not least, in order to make it work, you have to stick to it. Even if in game number 1, you get absolutely blasted, again, you have to have thick enough skin. You've got to be able to know that your best chance at success is by picking a plan and sticking to that plan. So let's start off with power or superpower. I like giving all my plays a name. So for us, we called it Biggie, right? So we would call it this one in this picture here, Buzz Biggie Left. We're trying to get as many bodies to the point of contact as possible. We're trying to run our feet and win 3 yards. You're going to have foot-to-foot splits, as I told you. And what is a great idea, especially at a small school or a place with not a lot of talent, you need to put your best back. In this case, if my quarterback's a righty, then I like to put my best back on the right with my best blockers on the left. That'll be my best blocking tight end. That'll be my best blocking tackle and guard. Let's take a look at the front side of the power. First of all, my center is responsible for IDing odd or even. And he really bases that just on, do I have a nose guard in front of me? In the case of the slide in front of you, you see there is a nose guard in front of him. He would be shouting, odd, odd, odd. That's the first thing my guys should hear. Odd, odd, odd. We always want 2 double teams on the play side. So in this instance, we're running power left, super power left. We need 2 double teams. Here is power on the front side against an even front. My center yells, even, even, even. And now the 2 double teams are coming from guard tackle on double team number 1 and tackle wing for double team number 2. But we always want 2 double teams. So this is the hand drill. So we're going to put our kids, and we would do this every day. We're lining up from wing to wing. That includes both wings, both tight ends. This is a good time to let my Quarterbacks warm up their arms, might just use the fullbacks to play catch with them, especially because you're at a small school or in a small program, you don't have a ton of kids. Get them over, let them play some catch. You could work on plenty of other things during that time, but I've got to get these kids together and work on my double team, what I call hand drill. So first things first, in the hand drill, we're all foot to foot in our splits, and we're on what we call our haunches. We go elbows on the knees, we set our feet, and we put our elbows on our knees. Then I call out, odd, odd, odd. And when I call odd, 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 my center is going to hold hands with my guards because they know whether this was superpower left or right. We're assuming it's superpower going both ways. The double team comes between center and guard and tackle tight end. Odd, odd, odd. This is my double team. They grab hands. They know this is the double team I'm looking for when I hear odd. My tackle and tight end hold hands knowing we're the double team together when we hear odd. Even, even, even. My center lets go. Guard and tackle hold hands. Tackle and wing hold hands. They just grab each other's hand and hold it until I say break or until I say easy, easy. Whatever your commands are, they've got to hold hands. And we go back and forth several times. Even, even. Odd, odd. Break. Even, even. Even, even. Odd, odd. And we'll do this over and over and over. Maybe 3, maybe 4 minutes a day. We want to get this in. This is our number one play. This is our jab as boxers. If you don't have a good jab, it's hard to be good. We've got to make them respect power. So we're going to spend a lot of time on power every single day. Now let's dive into the double team itself. Now the cool thing about the double wing is that actually the front side of power and the front side of counter are blocked identically. So now we're getting 2 for the price of 1. We're practicing our number 1 and our number 2 play by practicing on the front side and working on these double teams. So in every double team, we need to have a post and a lead. What is a post and a lead? Well, the inside man of the double team is known as the post, while the outside man of the double team is known as the lead. The post is trying to just square this man up, stop penetration. Now, in theory, we're trying to move him backwards, but that rarely ever happens. My full effort going this way against his full effort trying to go this way, we're hoping to create a stalemate. Then we bring the double team, the lead man who's trying to drive him down. We want to drive him horizontally down the line of scrimmage. Let's talk about the post. The goal of my post man, we try to get screws to screws. We want the 2 screws on my helmet, on the post, and I'd like to get my 2 screws on the 2 front screws of his helmet. I'm trying to square him up, and I want to go thumbs up right in the breastplate of the shoulder pads, and I'm trying to square him up and drive. Square him up, run him back. I want to go face mask to face mask and try to stop this penetration, and I want to stay in front of him. I'm squared up. This is not a double team where I'm trying to leave room for my partner. I am squaring him up 100% face to face, shoulder to shoulder, drive him backwards, which again, we know is not realistic. We're trying to create a stalemate. And then I come with my lead. Now my lead man is going to be a shoulder blocker. My man who is running the lead block wants to downstep. That's a 45-degree angle with his inside foot. He wants to downstep and he wants to create this wing. Right here we go. Thumb up in our armpit, almost grabbing our own jersey here. Create a big shoulder, and I'm trying to make contact with the V of my neck right on his hip bone. So my shoulder and the V should be right in the hip, and my ear hole should be on his rear end, and I am trying to run with full effort, run him down. Now what will happen here on repeat is that your kids will frame up. We call this the frame. They will frame up way too high. They'll come and hit this defender, and they'll be up at his shoulder pad. And then a good coach will remind them over and over, okay, go ahead and take your first step, frame it up, freeze. Is that his rear end? No, coach. Okay, well, you've been told to put your ear on his rear end. Can you demonstrate what that looks like? And then they'll get really low and demonstrate how low that is. And you say, okay, well, run the play again. And you'll run the play again. They won't do it. And you try to correct them again. But you've got to be relentless about this from week 1 to week 10. Day 1 to day 100. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Ear hole to rear end. Run him. We have to stay low. And it doesn't happen by just telling a kid. You've got to coach it. Now, what happens when we get a blitzer? Well, anytime we get a blitzer, the people it's just inside their double team have to make a down call. Down, down, down. It's going to go fast. Down, down, down. And when we get a down, 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 well, now both blockers turn into lead blockers. We're both trying to lead. We're both trying to frame up shoulder to his hip bone and run him down the line of scrimmage. Okay, so this has to be practiced as well. This down, down, down call can be called by any set of double team blockers. So the blitz here coming inside the tackle tight end, they can make their down, down, down. The blitzer here comes inside, and maybe another one comes here inside of this tackle, let's say, which shouldn't happen, but it could, I suppose. They could call down, down, down. But any group of double teamers can make their own down, down calls. Make sure that they call it loud, and they execute. Now let's talk about the backside. Here in the picture, I've just drawn up this lane, and I've taken our blockers and pushed them down to the inside. Hopefully we're getting some sort of front side push with our two double teams. And we want to create this lane. You'll see we have the B-back just outside of that lane. We'll get to him in a moment, but he should be creating and pushing guys outward while everyone else is pushing guys inward, and we should try to get this lane. That's what we're looking for. Now, we're trying to get as many extra hats, as they would say, or as many blockers as possible at the point of attack, which is that lane right there. How many blockers can we get through that lane? We want to attack that lane, all of our blockers, attack it aggressively. You cannot slow down on the highway, right? What happens if you walk on the highway? Well, you get run over. What happens if you go 5 miles an hour in your car on the highway? You get run over. You have to go the speed of traffic. So get these kids to the point of attack and sprint through the point of attack. Now, never pass up an opposite colored jersey while you are in that lane. You can have drills that practice just these backside run-throughs. On the backside, you could block it a couple ways. Let's look at the bottom image first. I should have put that one on top. That's the most common way to block this superpower. You're going to bring guard and tackle. Now, the reason one of the reasons I like this is because there is 100% carryover to this and your counterplay. On your counterplay, guard and tackle are pulling. Now, if you have a little bit older kids, I do prefer to get guard and tight end there. And usually that's just because my tight ends are faster. They're faster athletes. I like to pull both of them there. And secondly, if you'll see on that top image, that tackle is usually in there, and my tackle, the one that I have blocking there, has a better chance of stopping penetration from this backside guy than when I ask my tight end to get all the way down there. But either way, I'm going to pull two guys. You take your pick. They're going to open step. They don't want to get too much depth, but they have to get enough depth to get behind the garbage, as we say. You got to get through the trash or behind the trash. All of this is a muck. All these double teams and bodies, this is a big old muck. So the guard needs to pull with just enough depth to get past the muck, but not so much that there's space between him and the muck. And find the first threat. My guard, for the most part, is pulling, looking inward, and a lot of times I'll have my tackle pulling and looking outward. But nonetheless, never pass up a man in the opposite colored jersey. Now let's take a look at the backfield. First of all, we've got the B-back. Well, that's what I call him, but that's their fullback. He has a tunnel block. He's the kick-out block, right? So this is a very crucial block. He is kicking the first man out. Now, some may ask things like, what if there's more than that? Well, a good defense has one force player. If they're playing with more than one force player, that's actually a good thing for you. But there should be one man assigned to force everything back in. And your job is to kick him out, right? So we call this a tunnel block. First of all, a couple points of making sure you have a good tunnel block. you have to, of course, first and foremost, go forward towards your double teamers. And then, as we say, J it out, right? So I'm going downhill and then I'm J'ing it out. And I'm trying to scoop. Notice how that line there is scoop. I'm trying to scoop this man and dig him out of there. And then I want to run him backwards. So if this is power left, I'm going to hit with my left shoulder. I'm trying to go at the last double team. I go right at it. And then I need to make sure my head is on the inside of that man. Square up with the left shoulder and run him out. Don't hit and stop. Hit and accelerate. Try to run him out. So yes, this is why most teams will put a pretty physical kid there at fullback. Notice I didn't say the word big. Sometimes big means physical, right? Sometimes physical comes in a big package, and a lot of times it does, but it doesn't always. Have you ever heard the term, looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane? Yeah, well, I've coached a few, and the odds are you might have one or two on your team. So it's not just big. They have to be physical. They have to be okay with contact, and that can come in a very small package. Now, the quarterback is going to turn and flip and lead through. So the quarterback does a full 360. Notice that I have my wingback here in motion. So let's talk momentarily. Let's back up, talk about that wingback. You've got to get him in motion. For the most part, you're only trying to get him about 1 yard deeper than he was. So I like to go about 1 yard at about a 45-degree angle. I like this. I like open step hop. And I want to time it up so that as I hop and land, we're saying go. Let's go back here to where I had the cadence. I skipped over that. Cadence and motion. Down, ready, set, go. This is a simple cadence that has worked. On down, we make sure our kids are ready on down. Now, we always like to do this. Down, snap our hands down. That takes a lot of extra practice, though, so you may not want to do that. Come up, put your kids' hands down, down. That just gives them an alert that we're ready to go. Ready, here comes the motion, set, go. And it should time up perfectly that you go down, ready, hop, or step, hop, set, go. Boom, shot out of a cannon. Again, while my O-line is practicing double teams, my F's and Z's and B's and Q's are off practicing what we call frames, and they're practicing timing that up. Cadence, motion, flipping the ball here on power. Now my wingback, when he lands, he wants his feet to land, and he wants to draw a straight line between him and the point of attack. He shouldn't belly back any further. I'm going to hit and land on go and start going at the point of attack. I must attack. Attack. I'm going to run through where the quarterback used to be. And the quarterback, when he pitches the ball, is really not so much pitching it at me as he is turning and fading away. So he's going towards the point of attack as he reverses out. Turn, reverse out, go towards the point of attack. And as he flips it, what I teach is I more so want him to leave that ball floating in air where he left. And my halfback, my wingback, will grab it on the run. Now, it never happens exactly like that. It does travel a little bit towards that halfback. But what I need that quarterback to know is that that halfback's coming at him. You don't have to turn and flip it to him. Turn and run to the point of attack, quarterback, and float that ball up in the air a little bit, and your halfback will run into it. It'll take time to get good at. Day one, won't look very good. Might not even look good for 4 days, but eventually your kids will get it down. Here we are here with the quarterback leading through the hole. Now, I always ask the quarterback to lead through the hole and look outward. And I touched on this guy already, but here it is again. Catch the ball going downhill. Attack, attack, attack. Put the ball 1 inch from your chin. You are a piercing bullet. You must try to pierce. You cannot go through here looking for the 80-yard play. And you got to teach these wingbacks your job, or we're going to be good when you're trying to earn carries. And you can earn carries by making sure that all the plays that go to you go for 3 or more yards. They go for 3 or 4 yards. See, when I know I call a play to you and it's going to go for 3 or 4 yards, I can call another play to you. If you catch the ball and come down the line of scrimmage and stop, and that play goes for 0, and now it's 2nd and 10, well, now I'm not as likely to call a play to you. So we try to encourage we take a lot of time to explain this to our backs that your job is to earn carries. By earning carries, you get 20 carries, 19 of them go for 3 yards, and one of them does pop for 50. And now you've got your game you're over a 100-yard rusher in that game. You got to try to earn carries, not yards on any one play. You're a piercing bullet. Get through and get your 3 yards for the sake of the team. And the last thing, and I have a tiny little video a little bit later with this, is that we want to avoid the outside. And this takes practice. The kids will want to bounce everything out to the outside. Will it happen in a game or two that there's room outside and a good athlete will take it? Yes. But when you're in practice, 100% of the time, you need to practice. You're not trying to go outside. Get it up in there, get it up in there, get it up in there. Now, there are some really good power variations, the first one being with no-mo. So now nobody goes in motion and you just flip. Because what happens? A lot of times when you bring a guy in motion a lot, they are game planning to move a man with motion. So now you're running power with no motion. So now we go no-mo, biggie left. It means nobody's going in motion. We're going to go biggie left. My halfback knows he's just going to take that. He's going to start sprinting on go. No motion. False motion. So what I love, this is probably the last time we ran this in 21, our best play was actually motion going right, power going left. And we would run that without that wing back as the extra blocker. We'd use him as an influence going the other way, power back. This was my best back, opposite my best blockers over here. And I'd give a false motion here and power back. And we were good enough, we got good enough, we could do it opposite. False motion here and power back here. Because this kid was so good, he got the ball so often, it was a great distraction. And then the last thing, you could tag a tunnel call, which you'll see, and there's a video here on YouTube. I'll try to link it below with Jesse Cineceros out of California, and they run double wing very successfully at the high school level, where now you're going to take that tight end and fullback and switch their jobs. The tight end's going to kick that first man out, and the fullback will lead through. And that can be a great change-up because you might have an outside guy that's really causing fits on that fullback. Maybe he comes through and he keeps cutting your fullback or something to stop that power play. Well, now you tunnel him out. He can't cut the fullback. The fullback leads through, and it messes with a defense's game plan. There it is right there drawn up. Take that tight end goes out, fullback goes through and in. Let's take a look at some game film. So here the team in blue is running power to the right. Notice how it is just a huge swarm of bodies, but they're running theirs with no motion. Number 24 has no motion here. Go, catch, get upfield. No motion, power, catch, get upfield. Let's look at that front side. They're getting a double team right here between their guard and tackle, and they go one-on-one with this wing. And this man here tries to avoid the wreckage, creating a lane for power. Power right. This is the same team. All this footage can be found here on YouTube. Same team running power to the right. When you run it well, you will find that a lot of cutback lanes become available. Now, these guys bring some motion, right? This is one way you could do motion. These guys are doing hop-hop. Hop-hop, catch, get upfield. Get as many people to the point of attack as you possibly can. Hop. These guys are one hop. Now, I'm a stickler on motion. I want my motion to be really clean. Notice how their motion is a little off, right? He hops, pauses. The timing's a little off. But notice there's that quarterback spinning out, getting north and south. To the naked eye, it looks like a little bit of chaos. But they know what they're doing. Notice how they skip that man between the tight end and the wing, and he gets kicked out there by the fullback. Notice this fullback doing a nice job tunneling, running him backwards. There's your kick out. And there's just enough room to pierce, get north-south, and get your 3 yards, which in this case turns into closer to 10. Here's their hop motion. Boom, power. Cut back lane available again. It happens a lot. Looks like we got one more. Hop, hop, superpower. Get up in there. Really, really tough and a lot to deal with and frustrating to deal with. Now this is the video I wanted to show you. This needs to be a part of your practice plan. The wall drill, where these schools will actually run power up against a wall, or in this case, a fence. Or if you don't have a fence, they'll run a line of bags. And this is to teach your backs, do not run outside on power. This is a north-south play, picture the wall. And again, I've seen many teams do this. They run power up against a fence. Notice their kick out man just pauses right here on the bag. They put bags up against the fence, run their double teams, and they're teaching and training that back. Go north-south, go north-south, go north-south. Stop looking to get outside on power. Now at the end of this video, if you want to stick around, I'll show you a little bit of footage from my 2021 season when we were a double wing team, and you can kind of watch my team run our version of the double tight double wing, which you're going to see a ton of this. I mean, this is how we were coaching all of it. Now let's move on to counter. Counter works if you get good at power. If you're not good at power, you can't hurt them with power. They don't have to respect power. Then they don't have to respect counter. They're going to play counter. So you've got to make them, first step one, make them respect your jab, which is power. If you do, counter can be a tough play. And again, the cool thing is that you have a lot of same as. In as many places possible, you want same as. So let's look at the front side of counter. Now you'll see that my pictures are actually just mirrored from my first power slides. It's the same as power. So when I call counter to the right, you should be running power over there to the right. We want two double teams. It's the same. Now there is an exception. Because it's counter against an odd front or an even front, you're not going to have the help of this wing. And that tight end needs to know that. And the tight end needs to know you do not have, this is the only exception, you don't have the wing's help for your double team. Which means you have two options. You're a lead blocker because you're solo, but if he's outside of you, you're going to skip him anyway, right? If he's head up of you even, you might just skip him and go down. And we'll kick him out. But if he's inside of you, you're solo, you're the lead of this of this block because you have no double team help on an even front. All right, so that's the only thing. You could also just tag it. You see there that I say on the end for him to skip. You could call counter skip, right? Or maybe your tag is something different. Some people will like to have a different word for that, right? Maybe you call it rock because you skip a rock. Counter rock means we're going to skip that guy that we would have double teamed if this was power. We're going to skip him instead and go to the next man. Now on the back side, again, it is same as. All this was pulled right from the power slide. We're trying to get as many guys to the point of attack as possible. The only difference is this. Now, instead of the guard leading up through, because again, if this was power, my fullback here would be kicking this D end out and tunneling him. But now the fullback is not there because it's a counter play. The fullback is actually going to the fake side, the side of the fake. On a counter, we're faking a power to the left and running counter back right. So my guard is trading jobs with that fullback. My guard is the kick out man. And so now we have to work on pull, kick out, and my tackle should pull, lead up. In the backfield, I'm trying to get this fullback here, back here, just off my last puller. He needs to go right off the butt of the last puller. Now, because I don't think I mentioned it before briefly, if it's your tackle or your tight end back here that is staying back to block for the two pullers, whether this be power or counter, most teams will do a fast crawl down towards the center, like a crawling cut. That's what most teams will do. You'll see them. They'll practice that. It's a bear crawl cut. I'm trying to bear crawl in front of these guys to cut off penetration between my center and my tight end. Now, one quick note is you do have to watch out. If you have a defender right here in between your center and tight end, if your center is blocking back, your tight end has to know, I can't cut that guy. That's illegal. I can only cut a guy that's not engaged by another one of my teammates. Back onto this. My B-back has to fill hard. He's got to expect very hard contact. Fill hard, expect contact because you're trying to cut off those guys that aren't being blocked because we're pulling guard and tackle. My F, quick motion and take off sprinting towards the sideline. And by all means, don't look back at the ball carrier. This is one of the pet peeves of mine in offenses in general, is that the guy who is supposed to be carrying out a fake is actually just looking at the ball carrier. I've always told my kids, why don't you just hold a sign that says that guy has it? But that's what you're doing by looking at the actual guy with the ball. So take your hop step in motion, take off sprinting, and just keep running and pretend to have a ball. That's your only job. Pretend to have a ball. The cue, the quarterback reverses out with some depth to make room for those pullers. He's going to reach the ball towards the power fake, and then he's going to put it back down low and deliver it underneath to that wing back. So that quarterback reverses out, reaches, and then he completes his revolution. Let me turn this way. Pretend I had just spun. He completes his revolution and comes underneath to the Z for that handoff. And then he will continue to run in the direction of the fake. And by all means, don't look back. Don't look back at the guy you just gave the ball to. The Z needs to, on go, this is not pre-motion, this is not pre-snap. On go, he needs to step, hop backwards. We're trying to get depth because we really want our first point of attack, our first movement after the hop to go down towards the line of scrimmage. I've found that if I don't do that and he just takes off sprinting to the right, he's actually running to the right when I need him running forward. So a step hop backwards, a slight delay, take off downhill, get that handoff, and attack. Some counter variations. Well, a lot of teams will run counter crisscross. So counter crisscross just means a double handoff. They actually will pitch it to the other back, just as if it was superpower. And that halfback will then hand it to the wingback. You can do either. You have the quarterback give, or you can do the double handoff. Just be very aware the double handoff takes more practice. And yes, there is a risk that you could fumble it. Or you could change the ball carrier. I've seen teams give this counter to their tight end. Do you have a super stud tight end? Well, I would probably venture to say he probably should be the wing instead. But otherwise, maybe you got a kid that you like there trying to get some touches. He's just as good as your wing and you want him on the field. You could give counter to the tight end. You could just tag it, counter Y, counter X, whatever letter you've given him. You could reverse out and give it to the fullback. You could reverse out and have the quarterback keep it. So there are variations. You can change who that ball carrier is. Let's take a look at some quick, brief counter game film. Notice a short motion, quarterback reverses out, gives to that wingback underneath. Whoop. Nice little job executing by this youth football team. That, I believe, that's the same play. Third time here on this same play. Boom, reverses out. Notice the quarterback kind of stuck watching. I would encourage you to try to coach that up so it's not happening. This one, here's a situation where they get the fullback to the point of attack too. The fullback goes opposite, goes towards the play fake, and then turns and follows the pullers back through the hole. So they're just getting another man to the point of contact. One more time for you. Notice this team's got kind of that, I've seen several teams do this, a creeping motion. They'll do this creeping. Creep and take off. You can do your motion how you like. You'll get a chance to see my motion later if you want to stick around till the end. Here's another team's counter. This team also gets the fullback there to the point of attack. Boom. Same look as what we were showing earlier. There's another. This youth team does a nice job. I like this quarterback. Nice little reverse out by the quarterback. Handoff underneath. I want you to see this last bit of film from the last team. This is that high school team, and they've opted for the counter crisscross. The pitch to the one man and the give back to the other. Notice how it's blocked up front just like power, so a ton of same as. Boom, counter in the backfield, crisscross. Very difficult to deal with. And he's off for a big gain. All right, we have taken the time to do the two most involved plays, but now number 3, what you're going to spend a ton of time on is trap. Now, most of you know how to run trap, but I want to just point out a few key details to giving yourself a chance at being good at trap. First of all, don't give up on it. I cannot tell you the number of years where we've run trap and it doesn't look good for long periods of time. But it's such an essential piece of the puzzle and so dangerous that you can't give up on it. Keep practicing it. If you're not very good at it, work on it more. The center's rule I call MAMO, and MAMO stands for man away, man on, right? So if the call is trap left, then the man away from left is the first guy on your right. So do you have a guy to the right, away from the call? It's trap left. Is there a man away? If so, if yes, block him, right? It's that lead block, shoulder to it, go. If not, then it's the man on. Is there a man away? No. Is there a man on? Yes, I need to block the man on. So in this case, it's an odd, man on. Boom. My guard's rule is down to backer. There's no man inside of me, but there's a man that is over the center. I'm going all the way down to the backer. And all the others, their rule is down to backer. Do not block. We do not block the first man outside the center. And that's what you have to work on like crazy. Don't block them. Don't touch them. Don't touch them. Don't touch them. Because on repeat, the kids will touch them. And you need to not touch them. We're trying to invite these two defenders upfield. And because they've been dealing with double teams on repeat through the whole game, they have to start being physical going upfield, which is why it's such a dangerous play. Now all of a sudden you skip them, and it takes them a moment to recover, and boom, they're kicked out by that backside guard. We're trying to get these guys to the next level and create a wall, hip to hip, what's known as the wall of friendly butts. Now, this is something that has to be practiced quite a bit, and you can make decisions. For us, if this nose here, we're all the way out, and as we would say, touching the guard, like he's kind of in front of you guard, well, we're going to skip him and get him kicked out. We'd make a short call. This is really short, right? I'm telling that guard and my fullback, this is really short. He's inside of me slightly. I'm going to skip him. But if he's like slightly outside the center, meaning he might touch the center, I can't tell. Well, now I'm going to make a long call. Okay, he's inside of me. I'm going to block him. That's going to make this trap hit a little wider, so we call it out long. We're telling our backside guard, look for a guy a little further. We're telling our fullback, you might need to make a long cut to the outside to get around me because I got to block this guy. How do you know which guy's to block and which not? You got to practice it. Right? If you could guarantee me that he's going to go sprinting up the field, I would skip him. But if you can't guarantee me and he looks like he might grab onto my center, I got to take him. And then last but not least, you got to be aware of blitzing linebackers. If they're outside the kick out, you got to let them go. If they're inside the kick out, you might need to make a long call at the last second and pick up that blitzing linebacker. On the backside of trap, first of all, the guard, we call this a V-pull. It is so important for him to win back the line of scrimmage. When you work trap at first, your kids will always pull with depth. They always pull here across the back and they look deep. They don't need to look deep. Anybody that's beyond the depth of their body is not a threat to the play. We want to keep our shoulders as square as we can and win back the line of scrimmage. That's why we call it a V pull. I'm trying to go forward, kick out with if it's trap left shoulder. Left shoulder, kick him out. Fast, aggressive contact, and my running back will be by him. My tackles rule is cut to cut off. So he's got to cut any defender between him and the center that might get through. I might need to cut him. I'm going to get my head across and dive at his knee. But if there's nobody there, I'll go to cut off. I'm trying to cut off that backside backer that's going to be chasing this way. So I'm cut to cut off. And my backside tight end, I can do one of two things, depending on what you prefer. He can have the same rule, cut to cut off, or you can just put him on a backside route. I've always preferred to put him on a backside route because I don't think this guy can hurt me on trap, so I'll just let him influence. Maybe there's a corner back here that might chase him for a step or two. In the backfield, my F, it's just like on counter if he's not getting the ball. Motion just like it's power and sprint. Don't stop to watch the ball carrier. My quarterback is going to reverse out, and as he reverses out, he is just reaching that ball and leaving it there on what's called the midline. Leave it there in the middle and let the fullback take it. And then, this is an important part, what I'd love to see is you want to continue with your eyes. You keep turning and looking towards power as you leave the ball there. I think this is an important part of getting good at this. Now, this is important too. I believe, now you could do one of two things. You could carry the wedge in your playbook as well, and you could call, for example, trap left wedge, which means everybody in the backfield run trap and my O-line run wedge. Or you could just run QB wedge. You could call it out. Hey, we're going to go buzz motion, Q wedge. Or no-mo, Q wedge. I think that the wedge is a really important complement to this offense, and you'll see my team later, we use the heck out of it. It's just too easy to install and makes you tough and hard to stop come 4th and 1. Now, one coaching tip on wedge is that we are not trying to pick out men from tackle to tackle. We are trying to put our shoulder on on the back of my teammate's shoulder. So my shoulder, I'm trying to get to the back of his shoulder. So if I'm the tackle, I'm finding my guard, putting my shoulder on the back of his shoulder and running. If I'm the guard, I'm putting my shoulder on the back of my center and running. My center knows he's going to get 2 guards' shoulders on his back, so his job is to stay low and keep running. And if you fall, which happens a lot, hands down and bear crawl if you have to. Keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And then the tight ends, what we want to do is just release them. Now, I would tell them, hey, if this is 4th and 1 or 4th and inches on the goal line, just join the wedge. But if we're out in the open field running it, I'd rather see you go to the next level. Do they always do that? No, right? The fog of war, they get caught up in it, and they're just their minds are elsewhere. Just got a couple little trap shots for you. This one, they just run with the wedge. So again, if you have a really young team, I wouldn't even bother installing trap. I would just make the wedge blocking my trap. And here they are running trap with wedge. Notice how many little kids are stuck chasing the power fake. Here's another trap. Now you will see a lot of these teams, they're actually coupling trap off of a sweep fake. Like trap and buck sweep from wing T. And a lot of teams will do this. So if I would only do this if you're planning on installing buck sweep. If you're not, I would let my quarterback continue on like it's power. Boom, there's trap. Notice again, the guys out here that are stuck chasing power. Move on to the next one. There's a nice little trap fake. I don't like how the quarterback stops to look back. But I like this action. Quarterback does reverse out and keep chasing the power fake. Okay, and sure enough, and here it is. It happens like this a lot. A guy gets loose. And in this case, again, they don't even trap block it. They just wedge it. Boom. Here's the same team running the same trap. In a different game, again, they just wedge it. Tough little backfield action. These guys, I believe, I think it's the same team actually running it with trap. Boom, you see that backside guard pull here? Backside guard pulls, boom, kick. Nothing but a wall of friendly butts, and he's gone. Gets a flag for turning and looking at the opponents. And one last one, boom, trap with wedge blocking all the way to the end zone. Really stinking tough. Now, last but not least, we have some play action pass. Now, I want to talk about this because a lot of people, their first reaction is going to be to install waggle, boot. Well, waggle and boot are great plays. They're incredible plays. And in the years where I run wing T, waggle and boot are our number one. But the reason it's not my number one option when it comes to the double tight double wing is because by nature of the double tight double wing, my quarterback isn't booting opposite of the action as often, right? So most of the time, my quarterback is actually just going in the same direction. So now if all of a sudden I want to run boot and he takes off sprinting opposite, what would happen is that he's continually got a trailer, like he's getting pressure nonstop. It's just not an automatic. So instead, this little action, we always called it wagons, was the simplest action to install as the number one play action pass. Now, I will tell you this, when it comes to throwing the football on your team, athleticism is king. You're going to live and die based on how athletic are these kids. Quarterback, he can look good throwing a ball in practice, right? He throws a nice spiral, but he really struggles to do it in a game within the chaos. You're really a victim of kids' athleticism when it comes to throwing the ball. If you got some really good athletes, you can do it. They do things under duress that normal people struggle to do. The blocking is flexible, how you decide to block it. I prefer this, which I'll show you in a moment, we've always called it Ringo, but it's just one generic pass pro. We practice it a ton. We're sticklers on the routes, and we do not ask our quarterback to read it. I'm not going to ask my quarterback to spin around and fake a power and turn back around when we don't even throw the ball that much and look for a safety and pick a route. No, I'm going to tell you which one of these I want. So, for example, a good example would be wagons. If I call wagons, you are turning around looking for this tight end who's hitched up at about 10 yards. And if I call wagons big, you are turning around looking for the deep man. So me, as a play caller, I might have a fellow coach watching that safety while we run power. And I want to know, is that safety backpedaling? In which case I know wagons should be there, or is that safety coming forward? In which case I know big should be there. I'm not worried about the linebackers because if they're any good at all, and if we're any good at power at all, they have to fill. They have to come forward on power fake. They have to, or else they can't stop power. So I'm just worried about the safety. So I can watch him. When I call power, I could watch him. Or what I like to do is I like to have a friend watch him, a fellow coach, watch that safety. Is he coming downhill? Is he standstill? Is he at a standstill? I want big. Is he backpedaling on go? I want wagons. Briefly, we'll touch on this pass protection. Now, on the right side, we are just calling what's called big on big. So my tackle is responsible for the big body near him, and my guard's responsible for the big body near him. They know they have the help of the fullback. My fullback is looking for a blitzing linebacker here in B gap first, and if there's not one, then in C gap. Now, because the nature of my offense, I'm getting an extra man here to that side. And my extra man is always, if he's there, is always just going to block the first person outside. Now, away from the big on big side, this is called slide protection. Center is responsible for the gap to his left. The guard is responsible for the gap to his left, and the tackle is responsible for the guard to his left. Now, the only exception to this generally is if we get an odd front, really my center becomes a big on big player too. So odd, center knows I'm big on big. Means I'm going to block this nose. And if it's even, I know I'm slide. I'm responsible for the gap to my left. Take time to practice it. Even take a little bit of time to practice picking up blitzes, or if they happen to spin move or something. You do have to take some time to practice it. But this is the simplest way to attack some pass protection. And then ask your kids to attack. Get off and go low. You can't go more than 3 yards downfield, but you do not want your kids to just stand up straight. And now we'll just take an extra moment to cover these routes. My X and my Z are the tight end and wing. Maybe I'm going to run the play to the right, and it's the Y and the F. They're going to run together to 10 yards. At 10 yards, my tight end is hooking up, sitting it down. He's going to lower his body. His butt's going to lower. He's going to chop his feet and turn around. While my wing back continues vertical, slightly bending in. Now, my tight end, when he hooks up, he is free to shuffle. You'll see that little yellow line there. He wants to shuffle to an opening. So as he hooks up and sees that there's a linebacker directly in between him and the quarterback, he'll just shuffle a little to the left. Right? So the kids get pretty good at shuffling left or right into a nice, clean, open window right there. My quarterback knows I've called either wagons or I've called big. If it is open, take it. And if it's not open, tuck the ball and run straight ahead. We have to practice this. Now, as your kids get older or your quarterback gets pretty good, maybe you're running this at the high school level and your kid's been starting since his sophomore year and he's a senior now, you might give him the option to say, is it open? Take it. Is it not open? You could look for the other route. But I'd be pretty slow to do that. When I start with every quarterback, is it open? Take it. If not, tuck it and run. We want to avoid this 20-yard loss or a silly throw. Because, again, we don't spend our practice time practicing this. Most of our practice time, 90%, is double teams, run the ball. Double teams, run the ball. Let's take a look at a couple examples of this. I only have a couple. First and foremost, these guys don't even release the tight end. They just go with the wing. A quick little fake, boom. You can see their pass protection is a little different as well. But again, when you run the ball physically, they see the safety coming up, boom, that wing easily slips by them. That's why this is number one. It's the easiest way to go with, and it holds people accountable to not just running down your throat. When they watch a guy now and then get loose vertically, they're yelling at least one of their kids, stay back. Now, this is my team running the wagons route, and I didn't have a clip of it when we were in the double wing, even though that year we ran the double wing, wagons was so good to us. But this is a picture of our team last year. This is against the best team in our conference, and you'll see it's the exact same concept, even though my fullback goes the wrong way. But you'll see my tight end and wing run together to 10, and my tight end hook up here in a nice little open zone. You see him hook up, he starts shuffling, hooks up, shuffles out of the way of that tight end. Quarterback reverses out, finds him, makes a nice, easy little throw for a good gain against a good football team. Now, we are going to jump over to Huddle in a moment to watch a little bit of footage of my team running this from 2021. But what's next? Well, if you decide to run this, first of all, I want to encourage you, be slow to add plays. Just to get good at those 4 plays, running them left and right, is a great deal of practice time. And if you're a youth football coach and you practice twice a week, I believe that's a full season. Now, if it's me, I would have my 3 to 5 trick plays that I plan on running once a game, right? I'm going to practice those too. But for the most part, this is my offense. Is these 4 plays, we're going to live and die by these, and we'll sprinkle in our 3 to 5 trick plays per game. But I've got to stick to this. And I don't need to just go out and find a bunch more plays to make us better. The key to getting better is to get better at the plays. Now, the next thing I have there is I say burn the boats. And I love this in relation to these double wing type offenses or under center offenses, because most coaches want to say, hey, I want to do it, but we're going to have a shotgun package in case it's 3rd and long, or in case we only have 30 seconds to go in the half. Burn the boats, man. Make a shotgun package not an option. This is us, and there is no other us. And that comes from a Trap Life presentation by, and now I can't remember all of a sudden if it was Terry Maxwell. I think it's Terry Maxwell of Seneca. Said, this is us, and there is no other us. There's not another version of us that runs some other offense, and maybe we're better than in that. Burn the boats, man. If you're going to do it, do it. Have thick enough skin to be able to say, hey, here's what we're doing and why we're doing it. I think it gives us the greatest chance of success. And we don't have a shotgun package. We don't have an alternative. If things aren't going well, we don't have some other option. This is us, and there is no other us. When it does come time to add, some people will want a sweep or a horizontal stretch play. My favorite is like a counter sweep. And you'll see it in my film a little bit later. That's my favorite. But again, I would only do that if I'm running at a high school program or a very good youth program. And then you've got other play action options. Of course, sky's the limit with play action options. For the most part, who's your best kids? Draw something up to go to them. Or if you got a super talented halfback that can really sling a little quick halfback pitch pass, is murderous too. So you go in the direction you want, but please, by all means, be slow to add. Because your key to success isn't a tricky play. Your key is being good at what you do. Now, before we get into my footage, hey, I've got linked below Roger Van de Zan's double wing from Chief Pigskin. That video is a must-see if you're going to run double tight, double wing. And I'll link Jesse Cineceros home clinic that we did here on our YouTube channel as well. These are must-sees if you're serious about the double wing. But man, I'm telling you, don't be afraid of it. Don't think that you're better than it. Because if you find yourself in a situation limited on athletes or limited on coaches, this is a great way to close the gap between you and your opponents. All right, this is just a little bit of bonus footage, and I won't spend long on this, but this is a look at my team from 2021, and we were limited on athletes. 17 kids, as I said, on day one when we got the job, and we started taking over, and we knew we had a long way to go, and we were limited on coaches as well. And so we decided to go double tight, double wing, and we were trying to close the gap between us and a lot of the teams we would play. So let's take a look. This is that false motion power play that I like to run. There's my best kid in that hop motion, and then power back the other side. Okay, so there's a lot going on, hard to see, but there's our super power play going opposite the motion, our best kid in motion. Now we do the same thing back the opposite way and give the ball to our best kid. Hop motion away, power back 2. Nowhere to go. Again, don't be discouraged. This is us. There's no other us. This is what we do. Now again, this play, I would get to this later. This is that counter sweep. We tossed it to this man, give to the other man. It's not a true counter because we're not trying to hit it north-south. It is actually meant to be more of an outside sweep play. Yeah, a counter sweep, for us, we called it Trojan scissors, but they're all just names. I'm getting my front side guard out. I'm getting my backside guard and tackle there. My quarterback is leading the way. My fullback is leading the way. And all that with a counter crisscross action in the backfield. It just makes for a really tough play. And in my opinion, the greatest complement to true power. Here we are running wedge. This is a year where we were slow to add trap. We did add trap, but we started with wedge, and sometimes I would give it to my fullback, but a lot of times we would just go no-mo or motion wedge with my quarterback. And again, there's so much going on. You're all foot to foot with your splits that it just gets difficult to pick up. Wedge to get ourselves out of the end zone. There's that motion opposite and power. Again, this is our jab. We have to run it. You're going to notice these powers aren't going for 50 yards. You're trying to punch you in the mouth and make us. We're trying to punch you in the mouth and make sure that you have to respect it. Notice we're trying to get my backside tight in there. Power. Another wedge. Again, quarterback just gets loose on wedge. It's very difficult. Here's a good look at a play action addition that we made. And we made this addition because our quarterback was really good that year. Even though we were limited on people, we did have a good quarterback. And this guy right here, this tailback here, was an exceptional athlete. And we knew we got to get him the ball. So instead of going vertical, because we got this team with a safety that loves to back up, we just run a simple little out and get him the ball. And again, a really good athlete makes a good play, right? Like I didn't do anything. I just designed a 10-yard out. He turned that into a 50-yard play because he's so good at football. Here's that Trojan sweep again, that counter sweep. Just such a great compliment. And I will just show just a couple more. Here's a crisscross. We would run our counter play with crisscross action. There's the double handoff on a crisscross. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation on how to run the double wing offense. I truly believe that it is underutilized. This could help you turn around a bad program or turn what was going to be an unsuccessful season into a successful one. If you are going to go in this direction, make sure you check out the resources that I've linked below. Reach out to me at any time with questions. You can find me on X at Nate_Allbaugh. Like and subscribe. Thank you for all your support, and we will see you when I create the next video.